After the Great Disaster, level became the definitive measure of strength in a world dominated by monsters. The man ventured into the dungeon, where he came face to face with Nurgle, a creature whose level was still a big question mark. Leading a group with a leader at level 457, they felt confused and scared, not knowing Nurgle's level, unsure how to strategize to deal with the uncertainty. Amidst the tension, some people suggested retreating, fearing the unknown dangers posed by Nurgle. However, the man insisted that they continue forward, understanding that letting Nurgle escape would destroy their morale and hope. They chose to bide their time until reinforcements arrived. As his comrades rushed towards the escape portal, the man drew his sword, rejecting the idea of sacrifice as a viable option. With a defiant spirit, he charged at Nurgle, determined to meet the challenge head-on. But before he could strike, Nurgle quickly retaliated, hurling his axe with devastating force. The system immediately warned the man that the attack surpassed his defensive capabilities, shattering his protective armor and leaving him severely injured with only 5% health remaining. Struggling to maintain his footing, the man lamented his lower level, wishing he could match Nurgle's strength. As Nurgle swung her axe once more, the man prepared for what seemed to be imminent defeat. Suddenly, a deafening explosion echoed throughout the dungeon, and a figure intervened, blocking Nurgle's colossal axe with a dagger. The man stared in astonishment, questioning how someone wielding such a simple weapon could stop Nurgle's attack. The newcomer confidently faced Nurgle, questioning her choice of nest. Despite the man's caution, the newcomer deftly dodged Nurgle's attack and quickly slashed at her arm. With a decisive strike, he decapitated the Nurgle using only his dagger, leaving the man dumbfounded by his display of skill. Curious and amazed, the man asked the newcomer about his identity and level. The newcomer casually revealed that he was only level 1, further confusing the man with his incredible prowess. Before these events took place, our protagonist had immersed himself in the depths of the dungeon, studying the glass books on mastering the art of hunting. These texts emphasize the importance of unwavering determination and readiness to face death itself in the pursuit of success. The protagonist internalizes these teachings, understanding that failure comes from insufficient effort and not from innate ability. Therefore, instead of blaming society or luck for his failure, he directs his anger inward, slamming his cell phone to the ground and exclaiming bitterly, "This is ridiculous." Looking back at the lifeless monster he had just defeated, he reflected on the 7 arduous years he had invested in becoming a hunter, starting from the age of 20 until now. However, despite his tireless efforts, success had always eluded him. Many factors led to his repeated disappointments. The hunter exam demanded tasks such as hunting predetermined monsters within a vast dungeon. In his early years, hindered by his low level, he found it impossible to defeat the assigned creatures. As he gradually leveled up, other players equipped with superior gear quickly delivered their targets and quickly cleared the test. Balancing his days with a part-time job to buy better equipment had left his energy drained, often causing him to collapse from exhaustion at crucial exam moments. Frustrated, she angrily checked her cell phone again, wondering who had written the advice in the book, as she desperately wanted to express her dissatisfaction. Suddenly, a voice rang out, addressing him as apprentice, and the hunter leader asked if he had cleared all the low-level monsters in the assigned area and decided to take a break. He confirmed that he had defeated them all. The supervisor instructed him to return to the starting point and hand over his loot. Then, with a sharp glare, he questioned why the intern was resting while looking at his cell phone, and quipped about the boss's impending attack. Gritting his teeth, he knew very well that interns were not allowed to participate in boss raids. Even if there were exceptions, they were usually only for people with considerable wealth or influential backgrounds. He realized that his leader was trying to trick him with false promises. Nevertheless, he pulled himself together and apologized to his leader, assuring him that he would soon be on his way to the starting point. The overseer impatiently urged him to hurry up, muttering to himself about the courage of today's youth. With a muttered curse that the supervisor was an old codger, he hurried off. Arriving at the starting point, he found the other people gathered beside him, ready for whatever would happen next. He was confused by the situation, knowing that the number of attendees outnumbered him, and wondered if everyone was just joking around like he was. Suddenly, someone hailed him as Lee Jun-woo, the future high-ranking officer. It was his high school classmate, Kim Min-suk, who asked if he had leveled up. Lee Jun-woo replied by questioning Min-suk's attachment to becoming a high-ranking player, while he himself had no such aspirations, and questioned why their parties were so few. In a serious tone, he tells Min Seok that the other apprentices are also at a low level. In response, Min Seok revealed that the hunter overseer had issued a distress call to the guild due to the appearance of an unconfirmed A-rank dungeon. Min Seok explained the great reward for clearing such a dungeon for the first time, far outweighing the importance of their current D-rank dungeon. Astonishingly, the guild plans to defeat the boss with only the remaining members and 2 apprentices, a revelation that surprises Lee Junwoo. Expanding on the plan, Min Seok points out that this means they can defeat the boss and potentially level up today. The prospect of such rapid progress makes Lee Junwoo ponder the possibilities, albeit with a mixture of excitement and trepidation at the challenges ahead. They happily high-five each other in celebration. Lee Junwoo asks Min Seok about the 2 remaining guild members, emphasizing that in order to entrust an apprentice member to defeat a D-ranked dungeon boss, the member must have a very high level. Min Seok admits that he has no specific information, but he believes that the guild will not rely on shortcomings. He also noted the boss's tendency to self-destruct when close to defeat. Lee Junwoo understood that the emergency call from the guild implied the participation of hunters of a certain caliber or higher, which he considered a fundamental requirement. However, he harbored doubts about the feasibility of the plan. Turning to another guild member, he asked if he had ever tried to capture Circlemus, suspecting him to be the least experienced among the remaining members. The man admitted that this was his first attempt. Continuing his examination, Lee Junwoo questioned the man's involvement in the boss's attack in the basement. The man claimed to have no previous experience and had only observed until now. Confused by the question, the man questioned Lee Junwoo's intentions, expressing his unease. As they spoke, the urgency and uncertainty of the impending dungeon attack loomed over their minds, mixed with a sense of anticipation and the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. Swinging his sword confidently, Choi Jae-yong assured Lee Junwoo not to worry, emphasizing his reliance on his well-equipped gear. As the grandson of a chairman of one of Korea's leading mid-sized companies, Choi Jae-yong boasted a level 55. Lee Junwoo pondered this situation, recognizing that even an experienced hunter with a level exceeding 100 might not be sufficient for the task at hand. Therefore, they enlisted the help of a dungeon crawler with financial resources. Observing the towering figure nearby, Jinwoo pondered whether relying on the head hunter, who had a formidable level 205, was their best option. He reasoned that with Choi Jae-yong's superior equipment, compensating for the other's lack of strength, they had a fighting chance. However, he was still aware that a boss raid demanded careful planning. Not only did they have to deal with small monsters that came and went, but also boss monsters that were capable of suddenly changing their attack targets. A mistaken strategy could result in them being picked off one by the boss monsters. Furthermore, with Circlemus scheduled to self-destruct within 3 minutes, once his health drops below 30%, they face a tight deadline. They had to achieve their goals quickly and decisively within this narrow time frame, otherwise, they would suffer dire consequences. As they prepared for the daunting challenge ahead, the gravity of this mission weighed heavily on their minds, underscoring the need for flawless execution and unwavering teamwork. The headhunters surveyed the assembled team, ensuring they mastered the boss's attack pattern and instructing them to swiftly eliminate any mobs that randomly appeared, emphasizing the importance of countering the monster's self-destruction attempts with their collective strength. He fielded questions from Lee Junwoo regarding the insufficient damage output. The chief hunter suggested that although fleeing to the portal was an option, it was better to continue attacking, even at the risk of casualties, emphasizing the consequences of leaving the boss room during the self-destruction phase, loss of experience points and valuable items. He brandished his sword and rallied them into action, signaling for immediate movement. As the apprentices cautiously entered the dungeon one by one, Lee Junwoo sighed resignedly, recognizing that there was no turning back now. Nearby, Choi Jae-yong asked if Lee Junwoo noted his higher level compared to the others, and asks about his experience in defeating the dungeon boss. Before Jinwoo can answer, Minok interrupts, confirming that Jinwoo has successfully defeated the boss on several occasions. With the lead hunter's directives ringing in their ears and the weight of the mission weighing them down, the team continued to advance into the unknown depths of the dungeon. Each deeper step reinforced the gravity of their task and the need for their collective skill and determination to overcome the challenges that lay ahead. He turns to Min Seok for clarification, but Seok only winks in response, implying that there is more to the plan than meets the eye. Choi Jae-yong then suggests that the three of them stick together, as his own experience is limited to observation rather than direct combat. Believing that consolidating their forces and assigning roles will increase their efficiency, he asks for their opinions on his proposal. Min Seok agrees that it is a good strategy, and when Choi Jae-yong asks for his approval, Min Seok agrees without hesitation. They seal the deal with a handshake, Min Seok expressing his desire to defeat the boss to level up, a sentiment also shared by Choi Jae-yong, who emphasizes his need for the item's circlemus drops. Acknowledging their shared goal, Min Seok suggests that they celebrate with a drink, to which Choi Jae-yong immediately agrees. As they stand together, he ponders the potential benefits of forging alliances with influential figures, like the boss, to gain access to higher dungeons, a path often reserved for elite hunters with privileged connections. Choi Jae-yong returns Min Seok's handshake enthusiastically, underlining his readiness to face the challenges ahead and affirming that he is happy to join them. With their plans aligned and determination strong, they venture deeper into the dungeon, each step bringing them closer to confronting the formidable circlemus and achieving their common goal. After that, Choi Jae-yong took the lead, silently appreciating the rare opportunity that lay before him. With a grin, he entered the dungeon, his demeanor extremely confident. Unnoticed by the others following behind, a foreboding gripped them as they followed Choi Jae-yong into the darkness. Inside, as they approached the critical moment, Circlemus' power is reduced by 30%, triggering his imminent self-destruction. Suddenly, a horde of undead emerges from the ground. Outnumbering the apprentices by more than 50 people with levels far beyond their usual foes. Amidst the chaos, he manages to repel one of the undead, but Min Seok voices concerns about their ability to overcome the enormous odds. Choi Jae-yong immediately calls for support in his position, prompting the hunter chief, who is heavily involved with Circlemus, to ask for an update on their status. He relayed the dire situation with the Skull Horde, questioning how they could effectively help in such a situation. In response, Min Seok removes one of the skeletons he was fighting, urging him to focus on defeating Circlemus while he endures the relentless attacks. Their resolve tested by the sudden change in situation, they'd forged ahead with determination, knowing that failure was not an option. With each attack and evasion, they edged closer to their goal, aware of the ticking clock imposed by Circlemus, impending self-destruction. As they fight valiantly against overwhelming odds, their teamwork and determination will be tested to the limit in a desperate battle for survival and success in the unforgiving depths of the dungeon. Questioning Min Seok's strategy to go alone and expressing concern for his safety, he urges Lee Jong-woo to hold out for just 1 minute and help the chief hunter. While placing a reassuring hand on Lee Jong-woo's shoulder, he emphasizes the need to complete the task quickly. Observing the hunter chief engaged in a fierce battle with Circlemus alone, he gritted his teeth and leaped towards his boss, instructing Min Seok to hold on for 30 seconds, as he promised to finish within that time. Together, they take on Circlemus, now weakened to 27% of his strength, and relentlessly attack. While the hunter's stubbornness urged them to speed up their efforts, pouring all his strength into every blow, he managed to reduce the boss' strength to 23%, with the system displaying 50 seconds remaining. Looking towards the dwindling time, he realized that their current strategy would not be enough in time. He turned to the headhunter, advising them to retreat, but the headhunter remained adamant, insisting that they could still succeed and reminding them that it wasn't over until it was over. Sensing the pressure of time and the gravity of their mission, they redoubled their efforts, focusing on exploiting every opportunity to weaken Circlemus further. Despite the odds, they fought with fierce determination, their resolve tested by relentless attacks and the insistence of a ticking clock. In the heart of the dungeon, they would either come out victorious or face the consequences of their bold gamble against a formidable boss. He couldn't help but think that the headhunter was out of his mind, likening his words to something that might be said in a sports match, not a life-or-death situation. With their current trajectory, they were on the verge of collapse. Suddenly, a shout startled him, warning him just in time to avoid the skull attack, though he suffered a small cut on his nose. Quickly recovering, he positioned himself and struck the skeleton, expressing disbelief at their near-death encounter. However, shock overtook him as he watched a swarm of skeletons advance towards them. The chief hunter demanded an explanation for the sudden arrival of the skeletons, and realizes that the apprentices are overwhelmed, swearing and panicking at the sight. He and Choi Jae-yong were ordered to tend to the injured apprentices as they began to retreat from the boss room. The two accepted the order. But before they could react, a skeleton pierced Choi Jae-young's leg, causing him to cry out in pain. Reacting quickly, he rushed to Choi Jae-young's side, trying to fend off the attacking skeleton while helping Choi Jae-young to safety. Despite the chaos happening around them, they focus on the immediate task of protecting their fallen comrades and ensuring they can retreat safely. The urgency of the situation intensified as they faced not only Circlemus, but also an onslaught of skeletons that threatened to overwhelm them. He ran up to Choi Jae-young, immediately ordering him to lower his head, which Choi Jae-young immediately did, allowing him to send the skeleton packing with a swift strike to his head. Following the Hunter Chief's order to support him, he confirms his readiness and agrees to follow closely. Meanwhile, the head hunter coordinates with Min Seok, assigning him to create an escape route, which Min Seok understands and quickly moves to assist. Faced with a horde of skeletons blocking their path to the portal, things are getting precarious. As the system's countdown shows only 19 seconds left before Circlemus will self-destruct. Realizing time was running out, he picked up Choi Jae-young, urged him to hold on tight, and ran towards the portal. Choi Jae-young apologizes for not noticing the skeleton earlier, explaining his focus on capturing Circlemus, but she assures Choi Jae-young that it's okay, insisting that they can discuss it outside. As they approach the portal, Choi Jae-young, relieved and smiling, asks if she's really okay. And she nods affirmatively, but urges him not to distract her as they rush towards safety. The adrenaline from the escape strengthens their resolve to reach safety before Cirrus can unleash its devastating self-destruction. Min Seok and the chief hunter, who were already at the edge of the portal, urged him to hurry. Without hesitation, he swings the Choi Jae-young at them, shouting for them to catch him. With only 6 seconds left, he quickly cleaved through the skeletons advancing from behind. As the countdown decreases to 4 seconds, he runs towards Min Seok and the hunter chief while carrying the Choi Jae-young. However, Choi Jae-young's soft call stops him for a moment, confusion crossing his face. Choi Jae-young questions if he really said everything was okay. With only 2 seconds left, Choi Jae-young suddenly kicks her, pushing her back into the basement, just as the timer hits 0 and the basement explodes. Inside, in the aftermath of the apparent explosion, she finds herself witnessing a poignant scene from her past. A younger version of himself ran joyfully towards his parents, declaring his determination to become a hunter. His mother gently asked his reasoning, wondering if it was to protect the people from monsters. He answered honestly, stating that his goal was to earn enough money to support his younger siblings, fix the leaky roof, and replace their aging car that had served them for over a decade. This moment of introspection amidst the chaos of the dungeon's destruction reminded him of the simple yet profound motivations that initially drove him to embark on the path as a hunter. It underscores his deep-rooted commitment to family and responsibility, despite the trials and dangers he faced along the way. His mother asked him if being a hunter was his dream, and he shyly replied that he also wanted to marry someone beautiful, which would require a large sum of money. His father chuckled at his realistic aspirations, ready to say more when she interrupts, asking what it is. Suddenly, his parents turned into terrifying monsters, questioning why he was lying there. Startled awake, she found herself trapped under heavy beams, amazed that she had survived. In the pitch darkness, she fears she's going blind. That is, until he hears Min Seok and the chief hunter shouting his name from above. They explain the consequences of Circlemus' defeat and say that he couldn't have escaped. Choi Jae-young apologizes profusely, claiming responsibility for Lee Jun-woo's disappearance, which makes him angry knowing that Choi Jae-young has deliberately pushed him back into the dungeon. Suddenly, the ground shakes, and the stones above her begin to crumble. Fearing for her life, she struggled to break free as debris rained down. With each passing second, the weight grew heavier, threatening to crush him. Desperate, she screams for help, hoping Min Seok and the head hunter will find a way to rescue her from the collapsing basement. As panic strikes, she clings to the hope of survival, her mind filled with regret for the choices that have led her into this dangerous situation. The horrifying reality of her situation deepened her resolve to fight with every breath and cling to the hope of rescue. Amidst echoing curses from the overseer as the dungeon threatens to collapse from the explosion, urgent orders are issued to salvage whatever they can and leave items buried under the rubble, prioritizing escape. Despite Min Seok's pleas to recover Lee Jun-woo's body, the supervisor insists that there is little hope of finding him amidst the rubble-filled chaos, and questions the possibility in a resigned tone. Desperately shouting, Li Jianyu insisted that he was still alive. But his cries were drowned out by the rocks that were falling on him. The headhunter coldly reminds Min Seok, with tears streaming down his face, that the basement is often the final resting place for hunters, according to their code. Overcome with grief, Min Seok tearfully exits the collapsed basement, apologizing repeatedly to Li Jianwu as he struggles to break free, begging them not to leave him to his fate. As time passed, Li Jianwu's hopes dimmed, his trapped state a reminder of the perils of their profession. The weight of the stones fell relentlessly, his cries for help diminishing in the suffocating silence of the collapsing basement. In those desperate moments, Jinwoo clung to the fleeting memories of his ideals and the dreams he once shared with his parents, now swallowed up by the harsh reality of the dungeon's unforgiving grip. The stones completely engulfed him, trapping him in despair under their overwhelming weight.